silence. Space has always been associated with silence, with a cold and indifferent void. But in recent weeks, that silence has changed. It has become tense, ringing with unspoken questions and restrained anticipation. All eyes, from the giant mirrors of observatories to the millions of screens of ordinary people, were fixed on a single point on the celestial map, the location of its movement. An interstellar wanderer, a visitor from another system, the object 3 I/ATLAS. And now, after nearly a month of silence that felt like an eternity, one of the world's great space powers, China, has promised to lift the veil of secrecy. The world held its breath as an announcement appeared on the official channels of the China National Space Administration, CNSA, the first ever close-up photograph of 3 I/ATLAS, taken by the Tianwen-1 probe orbiting Mars. It was supposed to be a triumph, a moment of truth. But when the image loaded, a collective sigh of disappointment swept across the planet. Instead of a clear shot that could answer at least some questions, the world saw a blurry spot. Not just a poor quality frame, but something deliberately spoiled, as if someone desperately did not want us to see what was hidden in the depths of space. And the main question that hung in the air was no longer about the nature of the object itself, but about what the Chinese probe had actually seen. What are they trying so desperately to hide? A message appeared today on Chinese scientific and media platforms that sparked heated debate not only among astronomers, but also on social media. After almost a month of silence, China finally published the first official image of the interstellar object 3 I/ATLAS, captured by the automated probe Tianwen-1 during observations from Mars's orbit. It seemed this could have been a pivotal moment in international research, as no photos from Chinese missions had been previously available. However, instead of the expected breakthrough, the publication caused bewilderment. The image was so blurry and indistinct that it was almost impossible to make out any details. This was not just a photo, it was a challenge. Billions of dollars invested in advanced technology, the highest class optics capable of discerning the smallest details on the surface of the red planet, and as a result, the world received an image that looked as if it were taken on an old phone through a fogged-up window. Immediately after the image's release, the internet exploded. Users noted that it didn't look like a raw photo from space, but rather one that had been intentionally softened. The object's contours were blurred, the background abnormally smooth, and the brightest areas seemed to have been digitally retouched. Imagine the absolutely black canvas of space, dotted with distant stars, each of which should be a sharp point of light. In the Chinese picture, the background was perfectly even, velvety, and devoid of any stars. It was as if someone had carefully cut out the main object and then pasted it onto an artificially created backdrop. Comments appeared on forums suggesting the image looked artificially blurred, as if elements that could attract too much attention had been hidden. This triggered a wave of indignation. Many expected China to finally show clear confirmation of 3 I/ATLAS's existence in the vicinity of Mars's orbit, but instead, a frame was presented from which no conclusions could be drawn. Astrophotography enthusiasts immediately got to work. They analyzed the pixel structure, noise levels, and light distribution. Their conclusions were unanimous. Such an image could not have been produced naturally. It was the work of filters, a deliberate distortion. And here is the first hook that makes you think, why would the most technologically advanced mission, capable of taking pictures of incredible clarity, publish such a blatant fake? According to official channels, the imaging was conducted in late October, when the Tianwen-1 probe was in an optimal position to observe interplanetary space. It was then that 3 I/ATLAS was passing near the orbit of Mars in a region where anomalous flashes of reflected light had previously been recorded. Chinese researchers stated that the shooting took place under difficult conditions, and they explained the blurriness by the sun's intense brightness and the object's high angular velocities. Let's break down this explanation. The sun's intense brightness. But modern spacecraft are equipped with sophisticated shielding and filtration systems that allow them to photograph objects even in close proximity to a star. High angular velocity? Also doubtful. The Tianwen-1 probe has stabilization and guidance systems that allow it to track moving targets with surgical precision. But the most important proof of this version's inconsistency came from competitors. Users noticed that other spacecraft, such as the American STEREO and the European Mars Express, transmitted much clearer images of the star background in the same sector of space during the same days. There was no glare or blurring in their pictures. Space was as it should be, black and clear. This means that there were no difficult conditions in reality. The Chinese Space Agency simply lied, and this is the second hook. If they are lying about the reasons for the poor quality, then they have something to hide about the object itself. Amid the growing interest in 3I/ATLAS, such uncertainty only added fuel to the fire. To understand the scale of what is happening, we need to go back to the very beginning. Since its discovery on July 1, 2025, the object has repeatedly exhibited strange behavior that does not fit into the familiar laws of celestial mechanics. This is not just a rock flying through our system. It is something else. Astronomers are recording non-gravitational acceleration, that is, a change in speed without any visible reactive jets of gas or dust. Imagine you are rolling a bowling ball. It moves down the lane, gradually slowing down due to friction. Now imagine that halfway down, this ball suddenly starts to accelerate on its own, without any external influence. This is exactly how 3I/ATLAS behaves. It maneuvers. It changes its speed, violating all of Kepler's laws. Scientists tried to explain this phenomenon by the emission of invisible gas, such as hydrogen, but spectral analysis showed nothing of the sort. The object remained silent, yet it continued its mysterious dance. And that's not all. The object's color is changing, and its reflection spectrum is also unstable. Since the end of October, it has shifted from a greenish-white to a rich blue. No known comet or asteroid is capable of such metamorphoses. A change in surface color could indicate chemical reactions, but this would require some source of energy or interaction with the surrounding environment. And 3I/ATLAS is flying in a vacuum. The Keck and Lowell telescopes noted a constant brightness with no signs of evaporation, although a comet of this type should have gradually lost mass and dimmed as it approached the Sun. This object does not melt under the rays of our star. It remains unchanged, bright, as if its surface is made of a material capable of withstanding colossal temperatures. Furthermore, the orbit of 3I/ATLAS remains anomalously stable. And this is perhaps the biggest mystery. The object moves almost exactly in the plane of the solar system, unlike most interstellar bodies that fly through it at sharp angles. Imagine our solar system as a flat disk, a vinyl record. All the planets revolve in roughly the same plane. A random guest from the interstellar darkness should have crossed this plane at a random angle, like a thrown stone. But 3I/ATLAS entered our system as if someone had carefully placed it on this record. Its trajectory passes through the zones where the orbits of Venus, Mars, and Jupiter are located, as if it were calculated in advance. Scientists call this the paradox of orderliness. For a random entry from interstellar space, the probability of such a coincidence is practically zero. It's like throwing a needle from space and hitting the eye of a needle on Earth exactly. Therefore, the publication of the Chinese image caused a strong reaction. Many expected that the footage from Tianwen-1 would be able to confirm or refute the theory of the possible controlled movement of 3I/ATLAS. If a coma, a gas dust cloud, were visible in the picture, it would confirm its cometary nature. If its shape could be discerned, it would be possible to understand whether it is rotating or not. But instead, the public received an image where the object itself is barely distinguishable, and the background looks artificially filtered. Some users suggested that the original photo might have shown geometric lines, contours resembling smooth edges, or the cylindrical shape previously attributed to this body based on its light curves. Perhaps the blurring was necessary to hide the object's regular, artificial shape. Imagine that instead of a formless asteroid, the probe photographed something resembling a needle or an elongated polyhedron. Such a publication would have had the effect of a bombshell. And here is the third hook. Perhaps the Chinese authorities saw something so incredible that they decided to hide it from the whole world, fearing the consequences. The China National Space Administration limited itself to a brief explanation. The imaging was conducted under unfavorable optical conditions, but in scientific circles, this explanation was called evasive. The cameras on Tianwen-1 are capable of taking pictures with a resolution of up to 2.5 meters per pixel, which means that with the correct exposure, even the structure of a tail could have been distinguished if it existed. However, there is no trail in the photo. Moreover, an analysis of the illumination shows that the light source in the image does not correspond to the direction of the sun's rays, which may indicate post-processing of the image. It's as if in a photograph of a person, their shadow falls in the wrong direction from where the sun is shining. This is a gross error that immediately gives away a montage. Either the Chinese image processing specialists are extremely incompetent, which is hard to believe, or they deliberately left this clue, this hint, for those who know how to look. Some researchers have cautiously suggested that the Chinese side may have indeed performed digital smoothing to hide noise or unwanted glare. But even this version does not explain why only one frame was published, although imaging is usually done in series. This is standard practice in astronomy. Several pictures are taken and then superimposed on each other to increase clarity and eliminate random defects. According to unconfirmed reports from Chinese forums, which were quickly deleted, 3 images were initially obtained, but the other 2 did not pass an internal quality check. What kind of check is this? What was on those other 2 pictures that they couldn't be shown even in a blurred form? This only strengthens suspicions that the originals might have shown more than was allowed for publication. Perhaps in one of the frames, the object was visible from a different angle, which would have demonstrated its artificial nature even more clearly. Or maybe those pictures showed something even more shocking. For example, smaller parts separating from the main object. Astronomers note, if the frame were genuine and unprocessed, valuable data could have been obtained from it. For example, to estimate the reflectivity of the surface and the angular velocity of rotation of 3I/ATLAS. But with the current quality, this is impossible. Meanwhile, there is a growing expectation in the scientific community that other agencies, NASA, ESA, or the Indian ISRO, will publish their observations to verify whether the object really passed through the orbit of Mars. But they too remain silent. It is as if all the space powers of the world have entered into a conspiracy, agreeing not to reveal the truth. Or, what is even more alarming, they also do not know what it is and are afraid of causing a panic. For now, the fact remains. This is the first official image of 3/ATLAS presented by the Chinese side after a long silence, and it turned out to be so blurry that it only intensified interest and distrust. This is not an answer. It is a giant question mark hung up for public display. In the comments under the publication, users write that, instead of answers, they got even more riddles. After all, if the photograph really captures an interstellar object that demonstrates acceleration without evaporation, and its trajectory coincides with the orbits of the planets, then any frame could have become a sensation. But the published version was more of a hint than a revelation.